Good day, everyone. I am Randy D. Akal, a student of Doctor of Education, major in Educational Management. I am currently teaching at Kailawe Elementary School, Nasugbu East District. It is a great privilege for me to present to you the topic regarding the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan in the time of COVID-19. Before we proceed, let us have a short background of what the coronavirus is. On December 31, 2019, the World Health Organization or WHO China Country Office was informed of cases of pneumonia of unknown cause detected in Wuhan City, Hubei province of China. The cause would later be determined as a new type or strain of coronavirus not previously detected in people. Coronavirus is named as such because of the crown-like spikes on their surface. On February 11, 2020, the International Committee as a Taxonomy of Viruses or ICTV named the new coronavirus as Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2 or the SARS-CoV-2. On the same day, WHO also announced the name of the disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 as Coronavirus Disease 2019 or the COVID-19. The global outbreak of the highly contagious new strain of coronavirus known as COVID-19, for which there is yet no vaccine, continues to pose unprecedented challenges. At this point, the biggest impact of COVID-19 arises from the need to practice stringent social or physical distancing to prevent or mitigate its spread. For the Department of Education, this meant the cancellation of classes and other school activities for the remaining weeks of school year 2019-2020, and that for the school year 2020-2021. Schools must find ways for learning to continue amidst the threat and uncertainties brought about by COVID-19, while ensuring the health, safety, and well-being of all learners, teachers, and personnel of the department. The methodologies and principles. DepEd embarked on the development of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan to enable learners of basic education to continue learning and for teachers to be able to deliver instruction in a safe work and learning environment amid the threat of COVID-19. The inputs of the different strands through their lead undersecretaries and assistant secretaries and of the different regions through their regional directors were submitted to the Office of the Secretary. In addition, the Philippine Forum for Inclusive Quality Basic Education or EDUC Forum 5 conducted consultations to generate their collective inputs. In the development of this Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, inputs from different units and field offices of the department, from the Philippine Forum for Inclusive Quality Basic Education, and from the chairpersons of the House and Senate Committees on Basic Education, Representative Roman Romulo and Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, respectively, were gathered. In the integration of inputs into the BELCP, the Office of the Secretary was guided by the following principles. First, protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel, and prevent the further transmission of COVID-19. Second, ensure learning continuity through K-12 curriculum adjustments, alignment of learning materials, deployment of multiple learning delivery modalities, provision of corresponding training for teachers and school leaders, and proper orientation of parents or guardians of learners. Third, facilitate the safe return of teaching and non-teaching personnel and learners to workplaces and schools, taking into consideration the scenarios projected by the Department of Health or the DOH and the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases in the Philippines or the IATF, complemented by other credible sources and balanced with the DepEd's own risk assessments. Fourth, be sensitive to equity considerations and concerns and endeavor to address them the best we can. Lastly, link and bridge the BELCP to DepEd's pivot to quality and into the future of education under the framework of Sulong Edukalidad and Futures Thinking in Education. What the data tells us. In the time of COVID-19, the concern over basic education lies in the magnitude of moving and congregating learners, teachers, and education personnel nationwide. Based on the enrollment in the recently concluded school year 2019-2020, basic education has a total enrollment of 27,770,263 learners from kindergarten to grade 12, excluding the 21,786 enrollees in the Philippine schools overseas. It comes to a total of 27,748,477 learners in the country, of which 22,572,923 are accounted for by the Department of Education schools. Since WHO declared COVID-19 a public health emergency of international concern, the government has acted decisively to contain its spread through various measures such as restrictions on international travel, managed repatriation of Filipinos from COVID-19 affected countries, declaration of state of public health emergency throughout the country, imposition of health standards and community quarantine, improvement in the health system capacity, effective enforcement, and provision of social amelioration to economically vulnerable households. Given the epidemiological picture, the direction of overall government response, and the directive of the Secretary to find ways for learning to continue in a safe and healthy environment amid COVID-19, it is clear that distance learning will be a key modality of learning delivery in the incoming school year. Technology solutions are very important in distance learning. Online platforms are regarded to be the most advanced because of its ability to facilitate various interactive and remote activities and carry a broad range of content to a connected community. DepEd's Information and Communications Technology Service, or ICTS, has summarized some of the critical challenges that we face, as well as the updates on ongoing initiatives in relation to distance learning technologies. Access to the internet is a major limiting factor to online learning. This can be mitigated by loading digital materials into the devices of learners. Teachers would have to be trained in the use of technology for learning delivery. DepEd has already conducted 2 online training programs this year with 17,000 participants each on the use of technology in teaching. This will be expanded, but there are teachers with limited knowledge in ICT as well as with no internet access. Early grade levels need to be closely supervised by parents in the use of technology. Orienting the parents will be a major challenge, and there are questions as to whether parents are ready to take on this role. Senior high school vocational tracks have classes that require hands-on sessions in laboratories that may not be applicable in home-based approaches, even with technology. DepEd has migrated its systems into cloud servers that can be scaled up to meet the increasing demand for technology-based education. The learning strategies and modalities. Major adjustments are being made at the central and field levels to enable DepEd to deliver distance learning at a magnitude never done before. While the task is daunting, it is also compels the department to implement innovations already being done by DepEd and by its education partners, just on a larger scale. Thus, we are not really starting from scratch. Streamlining the K-12 curriculum into the most essential learning competencies. The DepEd curriculum and instruction strand, through the Bureau of Curriculum Development, has identified within the full K-12 curriculum the most essential learning competencies for the MELCs. This has streamlined the total number of competencies in all learning areas from kindergarten to grade 12, excluding the technical, vocational, livelihood or the TVL specializations in senior high school, to 5,689 from the original 14,171, or a reduction by 60%. The MELCs are defined as the competencies that a learner needs in order to continue to subsequent grades and ultimately to have a successful life. The characteristics of the MELCs are: A. It is aligned with national standards or frameworks such as, for example, Holistic Filipino Learners with 21st Century Skills. B. They connect the content to higher concepts across content areas. C. They are applicable to real-life situations. D. They are important for students to acquire even if a student drops out from school. E. They cannot be expected to be ordinarily learned by students if not taught in school. Learning delivery modalities. The learning delivery modalities that schools can adopt may be one or a combination of the following, depending on the COVID-19 restrictions and the particular context of the learners in the school or locality. Face-to-face. This refers to a learning delivery modality where the students and the teacher are both physically present in the classroom, and there are opportunities for active engagement, immediate feedback, and socio-emotional development of learners. Distance learning. This refers to a learning delivery modality where learning takes place between the teacher and the learners who are geographically remote from each other during instruction. This modality has three types: modular distance learning or the MDL, online distance learning or the ODL, and the television radio-based instruction. Blended learning. This refers to a learning delivery that combines face-to-face with any or a mix of online distance learning, modular distance learning, and TV radio-based instruction. Blended learning will enable the schools to limit face-to-face learning, ensure social distancing, and decrease the volume of people outside the home at any given time. Homeschooling. This is an ADM that aims to provide learners with quality basic education that is facilitated by qualified parents, guardians, or tutors who have undergone relevant training in a home-based environment. It allows families to educate according to their personal faith, philosophy, and values, and to adjust learning schedules around family schedules and circumstances. Learning resources. In addition to the textbooks distributed to the schools, SLMs shall be made available in print and digital format for use this incoming school year. They will be converted to inclusive interactive ebooks where videos, audio, and even sign language interpretations can be embedded to respond to the needs of the children with disabilities. Strategies for Kinder to Grade 3. The early grade learners, or the K-3 stage, are the most vulnerable to inaccessibility to education. They rely heavily on the guidance of adults as caregivers and facilitators of learning. The delivery of instruction for them should be anchored on the principles of developmentally appropriate practices, age-appropriate, individually appropriate, and socio-culturally appropriate. Adaptations for learners with disabilities. Adaptations such as captioning, transcribing to Braille, sign language interpretation, or providing different format options shall also be considered for learners with disabilities. Materials for learners such as, but not limited to, SLMs and other print materials, TV clips or videos, and online materials can be designed to be accessible to learners with hearing, visual, and or any other impairments. Assessment. The learning outcomes in the form of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values will be assessed. Learners shall prepare their portfolio, e-portfolio, to include written works and performances, whether hard copy, soft copy, or a combination of both. The portfolio or e-portfolio content will be assessed using rubrics that capture the evidence of learning. Testimonies of parents and other adults, including community leaders, aside from teachers, may also be considered in the assessment. Alternative learning system. The overall goal of the learning continuity plan for us is to sustain the gains of the Duterte administration in the delivery of quality and relevant second chance basic education programs for out-of-school youth and adults while ensuring the health and safety of both learners and teachers during the COVID-19 pandemic and in the transition to the new normal. Establishing a committee for the development, acquisition, and deployment of learning resources. Because sources of learning materials and platforms are vastly diverse, a committee led by the Curriculum and Instruction strand with representations from the OSEC, Legal, Administration, Procurement, Field Operations, and Finance strands shall be constituted to develop a transparent and responsive process for the development, evaluation, selection, acquisition, and deployment of various learning resources and platforms. Preparing our teachers and school leaders for multiple learning delivery. Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and its concomitant challenges, DepEd, through the National Educators Academy of the Philippines or the NEAP, affirms its commitment to providing and supporting the professional development of teachers and school leaders. Our teachers and school leaders shall be capacitated to implement and manage the adoption of multimodal learning delivery models based on their technology resources map, readiness assessment results, and implementation plans. In line with the fourth pillar of Sulong Ito Kalidad, which is to increase the engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration, DepEd, through the issuance of DM number 048 Series 2020, called for the proposals for professional development programs and courses from both DepEd units and non-DepEd learning service providers. This opens to non-DepEd learning service providers the opportunity to contribute to the education of our children. DepEd also issued DM number 050 Series 2020, which provided professional development priorities for teachers and school leaders for the school year 2020 to 2023, which includes training programs in light of COVID-19 for the incoming school year. Operationalizing the Learning Continuity Program. Required health standards. In accordance with the DOH guidelines on the risk-based public health standards for COVID-19 mitigation, or the DOH AO number 2020-0015, DepEd will issue guidelines on its required health standards for the adoption and guidance of all public and private schools and DepEd offices. This will cover the 4 COVID-19 mitigation objectives identified by DOH, namely, increase physical and mental resilience, reduce transmission, reduce contact, and reduce duration of infection. Contextualizing learning strategies and modalities in regions. Upon recommendation by the SDOs, after consultation with the schools under their respective jurisdictions, the RDs shall decide on the learning delivery modalities deemed appropriate in the context of the local conditions and consistent with the COVID-19 guidelines and regulations. Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela. Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela, the annual activities of DepEd to prepare for the school opening will be reconfigured to fully assist the preparation of stakeholders in the rollout of the BELCP. Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela will be undertaken from June 1, 2020 to August 29, 2020. If ROs and SDOs opt to hold their kick-off, it shall be conducted as Brigada Eskwela Forum, which may involve the following activities. 1. Orientation on the new normal. 2. Investment in education, giving new direction in engaging partners. 3. Discussion of the BELCP. 4. One major Brigada Eskwela activity to be adopted by the RO or SDO. 5. Conduct of PFA and PFA training. 6. Discussion on the basic roles and responsibilities of different sectors, including parents. And 7. Debriefing of learners, among others. Legal context. The 1987 Constitution provides in Article 14, Section 1 that the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels, and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. This right must be upheld at all times, and DepEd is duty-bound to provide learning opportunities even in the time of the COVID-19 national emergency. Under Republic Act No. 9155 or the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001, DepEd is vested with authority, accountability, and responsibility for ensuring access to, promoting equity in, and improving the quality of basic education. Finance. The department shall make necessary adjustments in its operation to meet the objectives of the BELCP. Guided by the directions set forth by the plan, DepEd bureaus, services, and offices are reviewing and assessing programs, activities, and projects and their corresponding budgets to make them more responsive to the current and post-COVID-19 scenarios. The available program funds shall be maximized, reprogrammed, or realigned to those programs and activities that would require more funding support. Communications. Communications shall play a major role in getting the support of stakeholders in implementing the BELCP. In its communications work on the BELCP, DepEd is guided by its National Communications Framework, which outlines the overarching communication approaches, including a communication strategy in the time of a crisis. Monitoring and evaluation. To further guide the department in refining and continuously fleshing out the BELCP, a monitoring and evaluation framework anchored on the Basic Education Monitoring and Evaluation Framework is being adopted, tailored to the needs of the learners during this emergency. This framework shall animate the planned interventions and activities and will show the desired outcomes as we navigate through the situation. Anchoring on solving edukalidad and bridging into the future. DepEd has already made significant strides in education access and was already pivoting to shift its focus on quality. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has introduced other strains of inequities to the education system, including connectivity, cost of mobile use, bandwidth, digital capacity, availability of, and capacity for providing learning support at home, and physical availability of parents, learning facilitators who may be daily wage earners and need to be at work. With the BELCP, DepEd has demonstrated three interconnected capacities that are significantly linked to the future: innovation, agility, and synergy. Innovation means formulating superior solutions that have greater social or economic impact. Agility refers to the ability to move quickly and gracefully, while synergy is a collaboration that creates an output greater or bigger than the sum of the individual contributions. The BELCP shows that the adversities can be overcome because there is always a solution. It may be a matter of looking through different perspectives and sometimes diverging from conventional approaches, but problems can be solved through innovation. Learning opportunities shall be available and learning shall continue in the time of COVID-19. Sulong Edukalidad. That's all, and thank you for listening.